Why the rarest personality succeeds later in life. There's a pervasive, quiet tragedy haunting the most complex minds of our generation. The silent suspicion that you've somehow failed before you've even truly begun. You look around and see a timeline that doesn't match your own. Peers seem to have sprinted into adulthood, effortlessly acquiring the careers, families, and social standing society deems success. They moved in straight lines. Then there's you. Your path has been a spiral, a series of starts and stops, abandoned passions, and long periods of apparent stagnation. While internally you fought wars and dismantled architectures of thought others don't even know exist. You won't want to miss the final habit, or 99% will miss the last tip and will stuck with this problem for life. The archetypal delay. The world celebrates the prodigy, the 30 under 30, the overnight success. This obsession with speed warps our perception, making the slow, deep work of the soul feel like laziness. But there's a radical counter-narrative. For a specific category of individual, those with intricate psychological makeup and a deep connection to the unconscious, early superficial success is biologically impossible. You're not failing to launch, you're undergoing a gestation period proportional to your destiny. The oak tree doesn't grow at the speed of grass, and your delay isn't a defect. You're building a foundation capable of sustaining a skyscraper, not a tent. The first half of life, roughly until your mid-30s, is merely preparation. For the rare, intuitive, deep-feeling individual, this period is characterized not by achievement, but by suffering. This isn't accidental. It's the friction needed to distinguish your true self from the persona society tries to impose. While others learned the rules, you were paralyzed by the need to understand why the game was played. This inherent need for deep understanding is a massive brake on external progress. While peers climbed ladders, you were likely on the bottom rung, analyzing the ladder's very structure, realizing it leaned against the wrong wall. Your consciousness is so differentiated that you can't engage in mindless action. You must understand the meaning before you commit energy. In a world rewarding swift, unthinking execution, this makes you seem hesitant. But this hesitation is a safeguard, your soul refusing to invest in an inauthentic life. The danger, of course, is internalizing this slowness as a flaw, feeling shame at the gap between your potential and reality, and wondering why you can't just be normal, why simple tasks drain you, why you need so much solitude, why you feel an ancient exhaustion. This exhaustion stems from processing reality at a higher resolution. You're not just living, you're decoding. Every interaction, every news cycle, every atmospheric shift is data your psyche must integrate. You carry the heavy load of consciousness, and like a supercomputer running complex simulations, your boot-up time is longer, but your processing power is infinite once you're online and integrated. Nature commits no errors. If you're built this way, nature needs this type of human. The world has plenty of people to maintain the status quo, but when the machine breaks, when old maps fail, when a crisis of meaning hits, the early achievers crumble because their identities are built on external validation. This is where you enter the stage, the soul alchemist. Your late success isn't a delayed version of normal success. It's a different species of achievement. It's resilience forged in introspection, rooted in self-knowledge, one alone in the dark. This ties into the process of individuation. For most, life is imitation. For you, it's been a process of stripping away. You've likely spent your 20s and 30s losing things, friends who didn't understand, jobs that suffocated, illusions that dissolved. This subtraction is painful, feeling like going backward. In alchemy, this is the nigredo, the blackening, the necessary decomposition of the false self. You had to fail at being normal to succeed at being you. Early success would have solidified a mask, trapping you in a persona too small for your soul, leading to a devastating midlife crisis. Your perceived failure was a protection mechanism, keeping you fluid, searching, hungry for the real thing. But the waiting room is dangerous. It's easy to rot there. The line between gestation and stagnation is razor thin, and many with your potential fall into the trap of the provisional life, always preparing to live but never actually stepping into the arena. You tell yourself, one day when I'm ready, but that day never comes because readiness is an illusion. The shift from late bloomer to awakened master happens not by thinking, but by a specific action bridging inner and outer worlds. Your timeline is governed by the archetype of the Senex, the wise old man. Even young, you are an old soul, serious and contemplative. This gravity is an asset, but in youth it's a burden, making you heavy. While others floated, you sank. But the treasures, the insights, the wisdom, the understanding of human nature are at the bottom. These become invaluable in the second half of life. As the world shifts to artificial intelligence and automation, the skills of early sprinters, rote memorization, following orders, become obsolete. The skills of the late bloomer, deep empathy, pattern recognition, complex synthesis, spiritual resilience, become the most valuable currency. You've been playing a long game in a short-term world, and finally the market is turning in your favor. The crucial transition is the metanoia, a turning of the mind, usually between 35 and 50. This is when inward-directed energy must turn outward. The pain of unlived potential is the pressure of the birth canal, squeezing you because you're too big for your current life. The failure to fit in was the universe ensuring you didn't get comfortable in a life too small for you. The primary psychological obstacle is the puer aeternus, the eternal child. This isn't about being childish, but about an emotional refusal to touch the ground, living in suspended animation, terrified that committing to one path kills infinite possibilities. You're in love with potentiality and despise actuality. Real life requires compromise, grit, and often boring repetition. Because your mind operates in the realm of the ideal, bringing your vision down to earth feels like degradation. So you stop, retreating to the clouds of your mind. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right moment, but deep down, the terrifying thought takes root. Life is passing you by while you analyze it. This is the crisis point, the shadow reclaimed. This is where the psychological elite often break. The pain of unfulfilled potential becomes a physical weight. You look at normal people and envy their simplicity, their participation in the arena while you're in the stands. But there's a solution. The cure for the poor isn't to grow up as society demands, dull and compliant. The cure is work, not just any work, but work that requires you to bloody your hands, to drag intuition into physical matter. This is why you feel a sudden urge to build, write, create, or train your body. Your soul screams for friction. It wants the earth. You can't do this alone. The isolation that protected you in youth becomes a prison in adulthood. You need to find others, not to join a herd, but to find a pack. We are gathering those scattered minds right here. If you want to ensure you don't drift back into the unconsciousness of the daily grind. If you want to keep this channel open as a lighthouse in your feed, make the commitment to subscribe now. It's a signal to your psyche that you prioritize truth over noise. Once you commit to landing your plane on the rough terrain of reality, you unlock the most potent weapon, the shadow. For the first half of your life, you were likely a good person, empathetic and sensitive, repressing aggression, ambition, and desire for power because you were taught they were bad. You associated power with corrupt figures, castrating your own drive to be harmless. But you don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. To succeed later in life, you must integrate your shadow, reclaiming the parts you threw away. That ambition you thought was greed is fuel. That anger you thought was destructive is boundary-setting energy. The late bloomer succeeds by finally stopping apologizing for their power. When a young person wields power, they are often dangerous for lacking empathy. You, however, have spent decades mastering empathy, understanding suffering. You can be trusted with power. When you tap into that reservoir of aggression and drive, you won't become a tyrant. You'll become a force of nature, moving with precision and authority that early achievers can't replicate. Their power comes from ego. Yours comes from the totality of your being. This integration gives late success its distinct flavor. Formidable, not frantic or desperate. Have you noticed how some older actors or leaders have a presence that feels heavy, almost gravitational? That's the weight of integrated shadow. They aren't trying to impress. They are fully occupying their own space, no longer asking permission to exist. This is where you are heading. The hesitation you felt was your intuition telling you you weren't ready for this voltage. Had you succeeded at 20, your ego would have burst. You would have become addicted to applause. But now you don't need applause. You need the work. You are driven by an internal imperative, a duty to the talent entrusted to you. Society sees the midlife transition as a crisis, quitting jobs, ending marriages, starting novels. They whisper, they're having a breakdown. Jung corrects this. No, they're having a breakthrough. The persona's walls crack so the self can emerge. Late success is almost always preceded by chaos. If your life feels like it's falling apart, take heart. This is the alchemical fire. The collapsing structure was too small for you. You are shedding, not dying. Consider the bamboo. For 5 years, nothing happens. Underground, a massive root system spreads. Then, in the 5th year, it explodes, growing 80 feet in 6 weeks. Did it grow in 6 weeks or 5 years? You are the bamboo. The silence of your last decade was pregnant, growing roots while others grew leaves. When you rise, you won't be toppled by the first wind. Early achievers have shallow roots. A single crisis can destroy them, but you've already survived the crisis of meaning in the dark. You are anti-fragile. The unique advantage of life's afternoon, maturity, soul-making, is that success is not chased, it's attracted. You become the person who naturally attracts what belongs to you. Desperation fades. You realize you've survived your worst days, faced the void and lived. What is left to fear? This lack of fear is magnetic. Synchronicity, the occurrence of meaningful coincidences, begins to flood your life. When you align your internal truth with external actions, the universe conspires with you. Opportunities appear out of thin air because you are vibrating at the frequency of your destiny. You are the river, not swimming upstream. The struggle of the first half was resistance. The success of the second is flow. This path required walking through the desert while others slept. You endured labels, held onto a vision no one else could see, and carried this burden because you are likely the cycle breaker of your lineage, metabolizing ancestral trauma. You couldn't succeed early because you were cleaning up psychic debris. Now that the cleaning is done, the road is clear. You run for all of them. Your success will be the vindication of your suffering, but remain vigilant. The old habits of passivity and analyzing rather than doing will try to pull you back. You cannot afford to waste energy on things that don't serve the great work. Your energy is your most precious resource. If you still feel the drain of toxic people or others' emotions, your boundaries are porous. To protect your momentum, identify and neutralize these energy drains. As you look ahead, do not look back with regret. Do not envy the sprinters. They have their reward. You have the depth of the ocean, the resilience of redwoods, a mind sharpened by silence. Your time was never then. Your time is now. The curtain is rising. The audience is waiting. This is so validating. I've always felt like I was on the wrong timeline, but realizing it's a different kind of journey entirely puts everything into perspective. Thank you for this. What's one thing you've let go of that unexpectedly opened up space for something greater?